I've had a couple people ask me recently how to create a layer of different features in Google Earth Pro and then import them into ArcGIS Pro to make them part of your ArcGIS Pro project. It's pretty easy to locate and delineate features in Google Earth, so this is a pretty useful workflow if you just want to whip up a set of features where you know where they are. You can just get to them really quickly in Google Earth and mark where they are, and then bring them into ArcGIS. So for this example, I'm going to use an example from a lab exercise that I wrote recently for one of my GIS classes. And for this lab exercise, we are collecting data on the different piers in California. So I'm going to make a layer in Google Earth Pro of the different piers in San Diego County, and I'm going to take that into ArcGIS Pro to just demonstrate how you can create a bunch of point features and easily import them into ArcGIS Pro. All right, so right here we have a Google Earth window. I already zoomed into San Diego County. Luckily, I know where the piers are in the county, so I think there's 4 or 5. This is the first one in Imperial Beach. The first thing you want to do is create a folder with which you can put your new pier features. So you can right-click on My Places or Temporary Places, and then hover over Add. It'll open this menu to the right, and you want to create a new folder. And I'm going to call this SD Piers. So this is a good container to put all of our piers once we figure out where they are. So now that we have an SD Piers folder, I have my first pier in view here, Imperial Beach Pier. You can actually designate where this feature is by clicking this yellow pin feature. So this is adding a place mark. We're going to add a place mark for Imperial Beach Pier into the San Diego Piers folder. All right, so I click SD Piers. Well, we got kind of lucky. It placed it right on Imperial Beach Pier this time. I'm going to put these place marks right where the pier basically comes out over the beach. So I have the base of that pin just at the bottom of the pier right there. And in the place mark property window that comes up, you can add a name for it. So I'm going to name it IB Pier. For Imperial Beach Pier, press OK. There we go. Since I had SD Piers highlighted already, IB Pier goes into that SD Piers folder. All right, so I'm going to cruise up the coast. I know Coronado doesn't have any piers. I'm going to ignore San Diego Bay. I'm looking for ocean piers, not harbor or bay piers. And I know the next one is Ocean Beach Pier. So here in the Ocean Beach neighborhood, we have another pier. If I highlight SD Piers again in the Places menu, when I add a new place mark, it'll go right in there. So add another place mark, put it right over where the pier intersects with the beach, and we're going to call this one OB Pier. It's our second pier, and I'll press OK. Cool. These are jetties, not really piers, so I'm going to ignore those. It's the mouth of Mission Bay, but I know there's a pier in Pacific Beach. This one's called Crystal Pier. So I will add a new place mark there, right over where it hovers over the beach, and I will call that Crystal, whoop, where did my cursor go? Crystal Pier. Right there in Pacific Beach. So going up the coast, nothing in La Jolla. Oh, there's one. That's Scripps Pier, part of the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. I'm going to put another place mark right over that one and a name for it, Scripps Pier. Press OK. And then we have a long stretch of coast as we get out of San Diego proper where there are no piers, but I know there's one last one right where the end of populated part of San Diego County is before you get to Camp Pendleton here in Oceanside in North County. So I'll add my last place mark here in Oceanside, and I'll call it Oceanside Pier. Press OK to save that there. Okay, those are all the San Diego piers. There's 5 of them. So we have them all organized within this folder. If somehow they ended up outside the folder, you can just drag them into the folder like so, or reorder them if you want to. And to export this, you want to right-click on the folder. This will save them all together, and you can click Save Place As. So this will save the whole folder, and we're just going to call it SD Piers, which was the name of the folder. It saves as a KMZ file. This is Google Earth's main file type, keyhole markup. I always forget the difference between KMZ and KML, but by default, we're just going to pick KMZ. Kind of works the same way in the end, in my experience anyway. And we'll put this on the desktop for now, sdpeers.kmz. So let's see. Once we save our peer file as a KMZ to our desktop, it should appear right here at the bottom left of our desktop, or wherever your icons end. Now we want to load this into a project in ArcGIS Pro. So I'm going to open up ArcGIS Pro. I already have a project started here, so if you're starting it up for the first time, you'll have to establish a new project, which will give you your geodatabase in the catalog window here. My project is called Sample, so I will load these peer features into this project called Sample and eventually get them into the sample geodatabase, the default geodatabase for this project. All right, so to actually get these into ArcGIS Pro, you have to use a tool. So we go to Analysis and then click on Tools within the Analysis pane. That'll open the geoprocessing pane over here on the right. Click in the search bar for Find Tools, and we had a KMZ file, so we want to do something with that. I'm going to type in KMZ. And as I mentioned earlier, there's not a big difference in practice between KML and KMZ, so there isn't actually a KMZ to layer file, but there is a KML to layer file. And if you read the details by hovering over the tool, it says that this converts a KML or KMZ file into a feature class, so that's fine. Click on that to open it. Might take a second on this computer. Okay, so once the tool pane launches for KML to layer, we want to put our KMZ file into this input KML file box. So I can do that just by browsing and going to the desktop right here. So click that folder to browse, click desktop down here, just navigate to wherever your original KMZ file is saved. Mine's on the desktop, so I click that right here. And output location, by default, it gets put into the sample folder. So it doesn't actually go straight into the geodatabase. It gets saved as a separate layer, and then we're going to import it into the geodatabase after. We're going to call this output layer also SD peers. So same name, everything pretty much gets left default here. And you can click Run to execute the tool. So it might take a couple seconds here. Okay, so the feature class is created, and it actually by default displays the feature class with the locations of each of these peers, and they're also labeled with their name. So it's kind of cool, just as immediately visible as a functional layer. Now, let's look at the catalog to see where this actually saved to. So if we go to our project folder, which in this case is sample, and look within that, it looks like a layer file called SD peers was created. This is the file that has the same symbology as we saw within Google Earth. The pins are maintained as the visualization of this feature. But we also have a geodatabase that's created, and within that geodatabase we have a point layer. So this actually has the location of the points in the more generic form. So if we zoom in, we have the points and the pins corresponding in space. So we could work with these points. I'm going to actually remove the peers because we're going to be going with the points from now on. These are the just the features with their geometry and location attached to them. This is scripts peer. When we click this pop-up right here, we can work with them in the SD peers geodatabase, but it's probably fairly likely that you're going to want to get this new layer you've created into a project you're already working on or some other geodatabase to work with some other data that you have going on. So to do that, to import the feature class, the next step would be right-clicking on your target geodatabase that you're working out of. In this case, I'm going to use the default sample geodatabase. Right-click on that, go to Import, and then click Feature Class. This will open the geoprocessing pane again, where I'll click Points. These are the points from that SD peers geodatabase that are visible in the map window right now. The output location, I want sample.geodatabase. That's the default geodatabase. And we can call these again. Let's just call it SD peers. This time, instead of points, it's going to be renamed back to SD peers when it gets loaded into the sample geodatabase. You have the option of removing some of the output fields. Some of these are kind of useless and refer to information that was brought over from Google Earth that's not really necessary for what you're going to do next, but I'm just going to leave them for now. And click Run to execute the tool. And this one shouldn't take very long. We got feature class to feature class. Okay, so we can remove points. We're going to keep the base map of SD peers right here, and we can actually delete the intermediate geodatabase. I've zoomed out to look at the whole county again, and now we can see all 5 of those peers within the San Diego County area. So there's 5 peers from south to north: Imperial, OB, Crystal Pier, Scripps Pier, and Oceanside Pier. And now you can do any other type of analysis or map making with it.